On behalf of Intertech Systems, Centric, and Oracle, we welcome you all to today's webinar titled Impact of Artificial Intelligence in Retail and E-commerce. This is your host Manish Shivare, and I am the marketing lead at Intertech Systems. While e-commerce has been on the rise since its inception, the unprecedented events in 2020 caused it to skyrocket as consumers avoided the risk of in-person shopping. As people continue to work and shop online in 2021, retail technology shows no sign of slowing down anytime soon. With that in mind, those in e-commerce sphere should keep an eye on new and emerging technology trends to stay competitive. In today's webinar, we will talk in detail about the platforms that can deliver prescriptive, predictive, and actionable insights to all key decision makers in retail industry. Just a little housekeeping before we get started with our first presentation. Keep your microphone muted all the time. Also turn off your camera to avoid any internet bandwidth issue. You may enter all your questions in the chat window. We will take them one by one towards the end of the session. Last but not the least, this webinar is getting recorded. The webinar recording will be made available to you within next 24 hours. All right, so coming next, let's have a quick glance at today's webinar agenda. So we have lined up some great industry speakers today. We will have executives from Eros Group, Lulu Group International, Landmark Group, etc., who will share their knowledge and experience with us. So we request you to please stay tuned till the end, where we will answer your questions in the last. Now, without any further ado, please join me in welcoming our first speaker for the day, Sanjay Das. Sanjay Das works with Intertech Systems as a sales director, enterprise and banking. He has over 25 years of industry experience and has been driving C-level relationship with all our key accounts. With this short intro, let's get started. Over to you, Sanjay.
Fantastic. Thank you, Manish. Hi, how are you all? I hope all of you are keeping safe. A very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all present today, depending on from which part of the world you are joining from. A warm welcome to all of you. Well, today I wish to share our experience with the retail industry and how we have transformed some of the retailers in the region. Well, let me first share my screen. Manish, please confirm once you can see.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Well, before I talk about the retail industry, I would like to talk briefly about Intertech Systems, who we are, and what we do. As Intertech Systems, we are celebrating our 30th year of operation in 2021. Intertech is a Middle Eastern organization having our headquarters in Dubai, in UAE. We have a regional presence having our footprint in Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Oman, other than offices in Mumbai and Bangalore in India. Intertech is a regional specialist aspiring to be global very soon, and we are ranked as one of the top 10 SIs in the region. On the right-hand side of the slide, what you get to see are some retailers who we have transformed their retail operation, providing them with end-to-end optimization from customer retention and experience. Satisfaction level with our customers stand at over 90%. We have over 50 best of breed technology alliances from industry majors, starting with Oracle, Centric, and others. Our partnership with Oracle is over 2 decades, and we have a gold partnership with Oracle. When it comes to AI and analytics part of the story, we have Centric as our extended arm, where we have invested jointly with the commitment from both the management. Intertech has over 650 strong workforce spread across the region. We are a certified organization from process, compliance, and quality perspective. And we have been awarded as the best employer for a couple of years in a stretch. So that's about Intertech in a gist. Moving on. Today, I would like to share our learning from our implementation across the region in terms of priorities of the retail CEOs. As we understand, they have changed today. We can always go back and blame the pandemic for the reason of this transformation. However, when we discuss with the retail CEOs, we clearly understood that there is a shift in their priorities, primarily because the market is changing. Let us understand what are the topmost priorities of the CEOs today. The first, increasing value per customer. Now, this can happen based on how well you maintain the customer relationship or the extent of the customer's loyalty towards your brand and how you can attract them to your business. The second most important factor is how you increase the margins and profitability and what kind of day-to-day operation that can be automated using, let's say, technologies like BPM, RPA, machine learning, and AI. That is where the operating margin can improve. The third and the most important point is how fast I can transform my business, meaning, let's say, how fast I can change the way I do business and speed to market. Brand value and customer experience is again very important for most retailers to understand customer preference and experience, and how one can improve the brand preference and acceptability for customers using analytics and data visualization. While managing stores is again very important, as we see a lot of brick and mortar stores getting closed because they are not able to adapt, not able to transform to the changing marketing scenario and retain our customers. Finally, how well we utilize the data available with us, and that is where Centric's AI platform plays a vital role as an end-to-end integrated solution. We at Intertek, Centric, and Oracle help customers to be onboarded in their retail journey by providing an engaging platform. These platforms are intelligent because of the strong algorithms that we use to give the required analysis so that it attracts the right profile of shoppers, let's say based on groups, gender preferences, etc. And also how well you manage your content and manage your digital assets. And that is where the whole idea of engaging customers on digital platform come into picture. I will talk on a few important trends in the retail digital transformation and innovation in the current year. Touchless interactions extend beyond just contactless payments to include touchless capabilities across all major customer process, starting from, let's say, for instance, scan and go, which we all know, virtual experience, etc. Also, touchless experiences deliver a level of personalization that makes customers feel that retailers are really being looked after and they're loyal to them by taking the trouble to understand their needs and desires to deliver satisfying customer experiences. The other important trend is the fulfillment execution. Now, this trend has become a top retailer priority, driven by significant rise in e-commerce and increasing consumer demand for unified commerce experiences. Today, retailers are already working to remodel physical locations by reducing selling footprints and also increasing on-site fulfillment. An important trend is the algorithmic merchandising. Now, what happens today? No longer can retailers afford to spread inventory evenly across all store locations. Retailers must leverage algorithmic approaches to increase precision when planning assortments, let's say pricing and promotions. If I can take an example, algorithmic merchandising enables retailers to decide which items that need to be displayed and stocked, as well as how they should be priced and promoted. And this will help to maximize not only sales, margin, inventory, and also increase or enhance customer satisfaction. Customer optimization has become an increasingly important and imperative to manage the extreme economic uncertainty that the pandemic brought and is now a major pillar today. I would like to conclude with one strong message for all the retailers present here. Retailers who are going to take the leap at this point of time will outperform the non-commerce organization by 30%. And I think it's a big leap. But the question here is, are you ready to take this leap? We are ready to support you, but are you ready to adapt to the next level of transformation? We at Intertek, Centric, and Oracle could help you to go to the next level on an integrated platform to take off in your retail journey. I take this opportunity to inform you all about our strategic partnership between Intertek, Centric, and Oracle to host our retail solution with a commitment of over 450 people to support AI-based solutions and services across industries. Centric team will be delivering a live demo of their AI-based application towards the end of the webinar. Thank you. Thank you all. Over to you, Manish.
All right. Thanks, Sanjay. Thanks for keeping it short and to the point. I can't agree more that this is the best time for retailers to evaluate the next gen platforms in order to grow their business. Just give me a second. Let me pull up my presentation again so I can put up the next presenter on the screen. Perfect. All right. So moving forward, it's time for next speaker, a known name in the industry. You must have heard him in a lot of talk shows and read his articles published in leading magazines across GCC. Join me in welcoming Rushikesh Bhatt, General Manager, Eros Group. Mr. Bhatt has been an agile senior IT professional, leveraging technology transformation to connect business vision and shareholder value proposition. He has been instrumental in enabling effective implementations of ERP and retail solutions, customer engagement solutions, digital transformation, RPA, cloud solutioning, vendor engagement, and tax enablement. Let's hear it from Mr. Bhatt. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
So my name is Rushikesh. I look after the IT for Eros Group. I will just quickly share my screen. So I am going to talk about digital transformation, which we did for Eros Group. Before we start with the digital transformation, I just wanted to give you a brief agenda. The presentation will be for about 10 minutes. We look at how the technology has advanced over a period of time. Okay, we look at some agile and smart systems which are helping Eros Group and an industry overall, okay, from taking it to the next level. And what is the current impact of technology which will help us to have a direction in the future? Like I pick up from Sanjay's slide where it talks about customer centric algorithms, AI based algorithms in terms of merchandising. That's a very valid aspect in terms of managing your customer profiling, as well as ensuring your logistics are in place, and you can in today's time you can have your manufacturing to retail and customers being tracked end to end, which gives you definitely an edge over your competition. So just moving forward, let me take you to the tech advancement which has happened. If you look at the up to 2012, okay, the growth in technology or advancements has been always very linear. Okay, there were not rapid changes which have happened, but with the advent of smartphones, okay, the technology was available to everybody, and you could actually see an exponential shift in terms of how technology moved. You had different solutions coming into picture. Everybody could get their hands on technology, and they can start practicing and utilizing it. So when it comes to Eros adopted Eros digital transformation started somewhere way back in 2008-9, where we adopted a strategy. We said we'll go by a 3-year strategy. Okay, we will see how we move ahead and break it down year on year in terms of the strategies. So in the first 3 to 4 years, our strategy was to increase to have our operations managed and increase our operational efficiency, have your analytics right in place. That is where we moved out of our traditional ERP systems which were fragmented we moved to Oracle ERP system. We implemented Oracle POS for seamless integrate execution at our retail stores. Plus, we had our analytics in place. We could have better visibility in terms of the inventories, how the stocks were movement, and how the market was movement. The next 3 to 4 years were mostly driven by operational efficiency and operational management. So, in terms of customer efficiency, where we had, vehicle tracking systems, we implemented RFID systems, a lot of other areas for improvement in terms of, the customer journey, having CRM systems in place to have a 360-degree view of the customer. This particular time from 2017-18, okay, we focused more on customer experiences. So we did have an online store which started somewhere in 2014-15. But yes, we adopted an omni-channel approach. We had a lot of areas in corrections in terms of marketing approaches. These are the tools which we adopted for having a seamless customer journey. If you look at it with the right kind of adaptations, it really helped us during the pandemic, where yes, a lot of traction happened in the e-commerce side, and a lot of online shopping did happen during those times. But yes, when it comes to Eero strategy, we look at it from a holistic point of view, where we want to adopt omni-channel approach as well, because in UAE, shopping is a very social aspect. You go for shopping especially in this kind of weather, where you don't have any other avenues to go out. What you generally visit the malls and you explore things. So what we look forward to is more of an omni-channel approach, from a standpoint where we can have a customer experience our retail stores, as well as we have offerings on our digital platform as well. So today's world is a very digitally connected community. Okay, so whether you are looking for any government related things, okay, whether you're looking for anything which is related to transport, when it is looking to everything is at your fingertips. So how are these communities connected? Okay, it is only possible with the advent of this smart systems that we have today, be it Internet of Things, okay, which we use for connecting to the endpoints. This all data gathers, okay, you use all of this data to store big data, and you have a lot of intelligence which is built around this data, and by using artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques. And thus, you can actually channelize all of this into a blockchain, where most of the things work in an automated manner without having any human interaction. So this has been also our approach in terms of having a very seamless experience for the customer, and ensuring that majority of our backend systems are automated, and we keep all of these things in track, and we keep track of how things are happening, so that and also look at new technologies which are being adopted by different companies and customers, and what is the new offerings which are going to come into the next 2 to 3 years. So when it comes to the retail value chain from a technological impact, how did Eros benefit from utilizing all of these technologies? Yes, it opened up new ways of collaborating with different stakeholders. Okay, not only being the customers, our principals, our vendors. We could actually make our supply chains more efficient. Okay, by having better projections about what is the customer behavior, and ensuring that we have agile mechanisms in terms of deliveries. It did help us in blurring some boundaries when it comes to retailing, when it comes to logistics and manufacturing. As I said, today, if you have today you are able with RFID systems and with barcodes, okay, you are able to track a particular product right from the time it leaves the factory till the consumer. So you can actually have better efficiencies in terms of planning your supply chains, in terms of offerings to your customer, which obviously will only enhance the customer experience. As I already mentioned about a better customer experience online and in store, we always want to adopt an omnichannel approach. So when it comes to understanding a customer's value point in terms of understanding how the customer is perceiving Eros and perceiving Eros products, okay, that is the time when we look forward for more personalized approaches, more personalized marketing, more personalized offerings for the customer on the basis of the data gathered over a period of time that we have. So these all areas are actually used by automated bots. We use natural language processing plus structured and unstructured data analysis to give our customers a very seamless experience. So coming to the last slide earlier, our approach was more in terms of being, a company-centric approach where we looked at only automating processes, having our data analytics right. Okay, do your basic marketing to have business growth and have a competitive advantage. But that was the necessity of those times. But today's approach has become more consumer-centric. It's become more personalized, and with the availability and the speed of information that you could transfer between from the organization to a consumer is completely different as compared to what you had earlier. So with a very focused data-driven approach, you can maintain your relevance with your customer. You can have your repeat value with your customers as well. So today's technology used for more overall 360-degree experience and also for convenience, which obviously would have an impact on your overall consumer value. It will help you use and optimize your resources better. You can have your infrastructure rationalized, and thus it gives you a financial edge over your competition, which will obviously give you your ROI and serve your customers better. That's it from my side. I believe I've been able to cover it from a holistic perspective. Thank you very much.
Perfect, Rishi. I mean, this was an excellent presentation by you. All right.
Thank you very
So,
much.
all right. So moving further, we have our next speaker, Dimitris Kourides. I hope I pronounced it right. He works as senior director at Oracle. Just a quick intro. Dimitris is a thought leader in the domain of digital transformation and cloud transformation, and is passionate about helping companies create new revenue streams. He is an avid keynote speaker, a visionary strategist, and has presented in more than 200 keynotes addressing Oracle partners, customers, and universities. With this, I would request Dimitris to take over. Dimitris, I have your presentation. Please allow me to share it on my screen.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, then. Thanks a lot. So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time in this business and this challenging time, right, when everybody's online and trying to coordinate with all of the activities to get informed on these key trends that we're having here. My name is Dimitris Kourides. I work for Oracle, and I'm passionate about helping companies understand how to actually leverage the key trends that are out there and moving forward into the new industries. 2020 was more than just the end of a decade that actually had us all rushing into how to use technology and move, and embrace it into our new business models. In fact, it was a year with the unfortunate opportunity of having COVID really hit all our doors, forced us to really start piloting all of these technologies, the emerging technologies we talk about, right? We listen about the likes of, the blockchains, the IoTs, the AIs, the digital assistants, and artificial intelligence all together to really accelerate what businesses offer to their end customers. The why, right? It was very simple. All of a sudden, we actually moved into an era where we had to adapt to new consumer demands, to new demands in how customers were really choosing what to buy and what not to buy, to work with new disruptions in the supply chain, and ultimately, right, have to really scale across our businesses. That was something that was really daunting. The retail industry has been at the epicenter of this change, and it's been challenged by fundamentally, right, trying to understand how do we better serve our customers, how do we really fulfill that customer experience and to stop, customers from moving to other online challenges. Next slide, please. So as we look into the industry, right, and we see what's going on, there are a few fundamental things that I wanted to really bring to your attention before we start talking about, how things have changed. So let's start with the forecast. We see that basically the retail industry is reshaping, right? It's actually moving towards becoming almost a $27 trillion opportunity out there, right? Now, some of the things that are very, very important for us is, if you look on the top left, right, is the disruption of the supply chain, the contactless technology that Sanjay talked about, right, and how we actually leverage, let's say, technologies like analytics, like AI, like, other technologies. We're building new payment systems to really facilitate making things happen. Now, when we look at the center, right, the forces that are reshaping the industry, again, Sanjay actually touched upon, the importance of personalization, right? So just touching and pushing out content to your customers, be it adverts, right, or generic banners or ads, isn't what really makes them tick. What really makes them really make the choice of, do I buy what's in my shopping cart or not, right? New business models. We've been hearing a lot that, people are moving away from in-store or brick and mortar stores all to fully e-commerce, and we've been hearing the other things all the other way around. The reality here is that companies that are being very successful are trying to balance their business models so that they can scale the consumer experience across both worlds, meaning have something that can be feasible for both the physical experience of what we are talking about. Next gen logistics. How do you optimize, the operation to sustain, right, and support the last mile delivery system? And again, right, we've seen that now cloud isn't just a me too. It's just, I need it for me to be able to really scale, to really offer that, that experience that we need to for our customers. I won't talk too much about, what consumers want. I think we all serve consumers and we're interacting with them on a daily basis. But what I'd just like to highlight to your attention is that when we look at the bottom left, we see that the retail industry is actually posed at recovering a lot faster than other industries. And most of this change is actually happening as we speak. And, in the next 6 months, we'll see that, companies and customers that are really investing on utilizing AI and machine learning are going to actually be a game changer in their industry. Why? Because they'll be able to really understand, how do we improve that omni-channel experience and really be able to understand the customer lifetime value across different product categories, different channels, different insights that are needed to be taken on. Next slide, please. So from an Oracle perspective, what we've done is we've actually had a survey sent out to some of our customers across Middle East and Africa. And what we've noticed is something that is very, very interesting. It's the fact that most of the consumers out there are and have been open during COVID to really start trying new shopping methods, right? Those who weren't used to using e-commerce or digital channels, right, actually were much more receptive to actually using digital channels. Those who were actually not very loyal, were very loyal to a brand, opened themselves up, right, and they started using different brands. And what this is showing us is that as technology is becoming more and more available, as the availability of all of these emerging technologies are really making themselves, to the market, what's happening is that we also see that consumers start being a bit less loyal to the brand, right? So consumer retention is a challenge that, we see that our customers, right, and the bigger retailers need to focus a bit more on top. So how do you tackle, or how does one tackle some of these changes using emerging technologies? Next slide, please. What I'll use here is the concept of the concept of Cannes Retail Success Matrix. So Cannes, who's actually done a lot of work on really identifying how do we move from just using technology to serve the need to creating a superior competitive advantage. As you see here, this is predominantly split into 4 categories, right? 2 on the product benefit side, which talk about the value. So the consumer value or the perceived brand value is actually speaking for itself. But what is the game changer is the ultimate retail proposition that we see that the retailer is building. And that splits into 2 core elements, right? Strategy 1 is the experiential customer experience, meaning we the experience we offer a customer as they walk into the shop, and that experience is a blended mix between the omni-channel experience, the brand experience, and the way that the customer interacts. And the second one is, again, something that both Eros and Sanjoy had talked about, that frictionless engagement with the customer, the touchless payments that are moving forward. Now, for these to happen, right, we obviously need to bring together not only the business value that the customer is paying for, but the background and the supporting technology that can help the business happen. And that's where, you know, the trio of AI, machine learning, digital assistance, and also analytics come to play. And you'll hear further on, you know, by Alak and team and Centric as to how and what type of solutions and expertise is required to bring these to the market. Next slide, please. So when we look at, you know, the priorities that we see from an Oracle perspective, right, there's 4 of them. I'll just touch on them at a very high level, given the time that we have. There's smart retailing, which is how do we understand, how do we target the customers and the consumers? How do we make our organization more agile to facilitate, you know, key insights and decision making? Then there's digital retailing, which is more about how do we actually bring together all of these different digital channels, right, into one channel that basically is a journey for the customer that they can be targeted or we can target, and we can maximize their experience with us. Resiliency, right, and profit maximization is a whole topic, a very in-depth topic that basically talks about how do we optimize. And then operational excellence is another area that is of key importance as retailers are basically trying to optimize and lower their TCO. Next slide, please. So when we really look at this, and what we at Oracle, right, are working with our customers and helping them, develop our multiple use cases that are around, you know, hypercomputing or IoT, which would involve, you know, cashiers and payment services, product movement and coordination, blockchain technologies that are, you know, there to really help us really fulfill, for example, fraud detection or contract management or even compliance. But the most important element that I just want to highlight here for you is the ability to bring together artificial intelligence, ML, together to help you as organizations understand, right, what are the product optimizations or the pricing that we need to adjust to, the product delivery that we need to fulfill, and ultimately touching the customer. Next slide. I'll skip all of these use cases as we don't have enough time. But what I want to say here is that when you're partnering up with a partner like Centric and Intertek, being able to really bring together this in-depth machine learning, data science, analytics capability, optimized with AI capabilities, can really help you implement not just one of these use cases, but multiple use cases tailored to the actual challenge that you have. And concluding, the last slide is why Oracle, right? Why Oracle and why Oracle partners? Well, you've all worked with us and you've seen us transform. We have one of the industry's leading cloud infrastructure right now on which we've based our entire SaaS applications. We make it very easy for customers to bring and run on top of us not only the Oracle workloads, but non-Oracle workloads across, right, all of the facets that the business require. And most importantly, for those partners that want to have, you know, leading industry capabilities for data management, for machine learning and AI, and at the same time, analytics out of the box, Oracle provides that capability within the Oracle public cloud. We do have data centers here in Dubai, within basically specialized systems like the cloud at customers that can run behind your firewalls. And a partner like Centric and Oracle working together can really help you mitigate, right, and implement any business value, any use case you require, and ultimately help you succeed. Thank you very much.
Thanks for such an insightful presentation, Dimitris. I think a lot of our attendees are going to ask for your presentation, and I would like to inform everyone that the presentations will be shared with you post-webinar. Meanwhile, before we move to the next presenter, I would like to request all the attendees that in case if you have any questions, please enter them in the chat window and we will take it up towards the end. Yeah. Time for the next speaker. So let me again just pull up the slide and get you introduced to the next speaker. Yeah. So join me in welcoming Alak Verma, CEO of Centric Alak has over 20 years of industry experience, and in his previous roles, he was engaged in building and growing business at Microsoft and Oracle USA. He will quickly talk about introspecting customers, omnichannel journey, and profitability measures. Over to you, Alak.
Thank you very much, Manish, and a very, very warm welcome all of you from Silicon Valley in the US. And I'm so delighted and thrilled today. And also, I'd like to first acknowledge and extend my heartfelt, thanks and gratitude to Intertech team, who has not only supported but also invested in our vision and in our technology, which we are trying to bring forward for all of our industry customers. And I won't really take long, basically, in terms of highlighting how the digital business has transformed over the years. And if you see here, I was talking about the transformation not only on the physical store, but also in terms of the consumer behavior. That has really challenged us. That as a technology expert, how should we really address the need of profitability? Because at the end of the day, the business leaders are really looking at how they can deliver more, at how they can earn more at the same time, so that they should delight customers and also have the greater profitability in their business, so that they could satisfy their shareholders. So the Centric came together with that vision to not only simplify customer engagement, but also amplify profitability. And only thing we can do, that we can drive profitability in three different areas by which we should automate the processes, by which we can do more with less. And if I can talk about that, it's only three areas we have touched upon in automations. How quickly we can gather data, collect data, automate process of fetching data from various system of records. Customer is coming omni-channel. They're coming on the web store, they're working in the physical store, and they're also trying to transact and interact. So two different data sets are very important for us to understand the behavioral pattern of customer. So the transaction data gives us how much they bought, when did they buy, when are they, all of those things. But what is the behavioral pattern emerging out of that? That is what we need from the interaction data. We are trying to automate that all processes by which we could be able to give the better visibility to the business owners and better predictability of the business owners. So in my earlier publication, I talked about business agility. That means responding to the change before that occurs. And how responsive the business could be, or the business leader could be, they know better in terms of automating those tasks. But now I'm thinking about, or rather my research indicates that how predictable your business could be, because COVID has taught a lesson. We were caught absolutely unprepared, right? And we have now slowly addressed the challenges which COVID has given us, the predictable behavior. Customers, consumers, all of us have started doing everything within four walls at our place. Can we automate those tasks in terms of ordering the products or services, interacting with customers through automated conversational chatbot? And how can we also get the indicator which can reduce the customer churn, or if customer is not happy, going away? So that is the process automation element of it. Then we talk about how do we enrich that data? Unless we are able to enrich data with the process or with artificial intelligence, the tooling, the machine learning methodology, will not be able to understand the behavior of our consumers. So we are doing enrichment of data at Centric with our AI and machine learning algorithm to classify the customers, to understand the customers, where they're coming from, what culture they're belonging to, what are the likes and dislikes of the product they are talking about it, so that we can maximize the profitability in each transaction the customer is having with us. And not last but not the least, our Centric solution also offers prescriptive guidance, and that too automated. When we say that customer may not be happy now with this act of the customer service, how do we respond quickly in real time, and that is prescriptive, actionable guidance given to the business owners via communication channel, either through the email or through the WhatsApp or through the SMS, by which we should be able to interact with customer before the damages are done. So if I really look at all the three elements together, automating certain tasks, which probably humanly possible, but if you do it more with the tooling, process automation, we can still reduce the cost operation in the large business settings, like what Rishikesh was mentioning at Eros. Certain tasks which is company centric, can it be more consumer centric? And can it be more customer focused? That is why the centric name comes about. We are customer obsessed. We are looking at inward how we can satisfy the customer and give the best delight possible. With all this in data enrichment and prescriptive actionable notification to the business leaders, they can correct before damages are done, which will not help only in customer loyalty, but also giving the better edge in terms of how they can recommend the right product and right services which customer may like, and not the one which you are trying to sell or push it forward. With this particular three elements, we have proven with certain use cases in our retail segment, there we have impacted return of investment or the profitability for customer big time. So with that, I will hand back to Manish to take the discussion forward.
Thanks for bringing so many valuable points, Alak. Retail business no more operates the way it used to until beginning of 2020, and after that, pandemic changed everything. As you rightly pointed out, getting insights about your customer journey plays a crucial role in delighting them. Great stuff. All right, so let's welcome our next speaker, Dr. Piyush Sinha, who is the former professor and researcher at IIM Ahmedabad. Dr. Sinha will share his thoughts on customer lifetime value, maximizing on basket size, frequency, and tenure. Let's hear from Dr. Sinha. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Manish, for bringing me in. Very, very warm welcome to everyone here, and a very good day to all of you. I'm actually a square pebble in a circle here. I'm coming from the academic side of it, with of course some experience in practice. But yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing is exactly, in a way, what I'm hearing is what I learned from working people who are present here in this webinar. So I'll just put whatever I've learned so far, and some of the work that has happened across. So let me just share my screen. Manish, is it visible?
Yes, it is.
So I think these two words, CLTV and profitability, are not new. It's for sure that they're not new, but they have got a different meaning as we are facing this situation now. Right? We have been talking about CLTV for ages. At least, I don't know. I mean, all my programs and training programs that we did since last 25 years, we have been talking about CLTV and how it can actually get into profitability. and it gets new meaning simply because as the challenges that we face, they keep changing, and that therefore the strategies to mitigate those challenges also have to be thought through. So we tend to become more innovative. But I'll just get into it as to what is it that we should do at the base of it, which will drive innovation, which will actually push us to think differently. So quickly, if we look at how the performance measure of all retailers have changed. So over 25 years, if you look at it, right, from looking at a business profitability, we have moved actually to the customer profitability. We all talked about whether my business as a whole is fine or not. Then we talked about store profitability. Then we talked about category profitability. And now we are talking about the customer each of the customer who is coming to me. How do I make profits out of each of the customer? How do I make the customer profitable? Now, this is where what is hidden is when we are saying profitable, we are talking of profits not today, but over time period. And that's where CLTV fits. That we are looking at customers so that we associate with them on a longer period, and which is becoming more and more challenging because the kind of competition that we have and the kind of giveaways that we keep giving, throwing the offer that we keep throwing to customer. Customer is spoiled of choices. In that, how do we actually ensure profitability? Now, what I'm saying is that if we do not bring in customer profitability in our business, as against store profitability, I'm not saying against, what we are saying, customer profitability will bring store profitability, will bring the business profitability. That's what we are saying. This becomes much more because now we are not talking of customer in my store or customer in an online store or customer in somewhere in a different format. All formats are coming together. Consumer is now shopping from different formats at one time. So whichever channel that the customer is buying it from, how do I reach to that customer? How do I create those channels which are memorable to the customer and to the company? And how I ensure that the customer is profitable at the end of it, whichever channel the customer buys. Now, if you have to get into customer profitability, we really need to move to a very nano level. So earlier we were talking of macro, then we went to meso, then we went to micro, and then we are talking of nano. And the measures also have moved. We are looking at EBITDA. Fine, we are looking at EBITDA. But at a store level, we look at sales per square meter. At category level, we look at GMROI or stock turn. At this level, we have to be now looking at what is the GMROI per customer, cross margin return customers that we have. Either a small customer segment that we are talking about it, or we are talking of a single customer. It depends upon at what level we can operate. Given the data that we have, given the capability, the technology capability that we have, it's possible to operate at a single customer level. It's possible to do it. Now, whether that makes a business sense in each of our businesses or the kind of product and services that we deal with is something that we need to take a call. But what I'm suggesting is basically more this movement from the arrow which says, while earlier we were looking at this, we need to start looking at how do I use customer profitability as a base to make my enterprise profitable. That is something that I'm suggesting here. And if that is to be done, then the answer is personalization. And all of us are talking about here as to how do I use technology to personalize or customize the offer to it. Now, I like this graph a lot for a simple reason that one is you can see the delta of the graph as you move towards personalization scale, number one, right? Number two, what is said, data everybody has, right? But most companies are still here where we are using segmentation-based rules. When would we get into customer-based rules? That is something that is a trick. And that's where one can say as the companies move from here to here, you can see the delta in terms of revenue that they are able to get from the customer. So that's the key to making it happen. And with the technology available, it's possible. There was a time when it was difficult to even write a letter to a single customer and make sure that it reaches to the person in the right time. But today, it's almost like real time. We know that we can do it. The other. So this personalization means that it is not just about personalization and just writing a letter, dear Mr. Sinha, this is what it is. It's actually making sure that how the customer gets the right kind of experience. And research that has been done on customer experience shows that customer experience can actually be a great route to shareholder profitability or value that you add to shareholders, right? This is a model which I've just generated from a lot of work that has happened in this area after talking to some people who are in the business as well as the academic research which has happened. Now, we all know that good quality gives you good experience, which gives you trust, which builds commitment, which gives you satisfaction. And all three of them actually create loyalty, which is in terms of either sales recommendation or NPS, which leads to shareholder value. This we know. But what, in my opinion, the key to everything is this particular box, what we call as customer centricity. This box of customer centricity that moderates what experience the customer gets from whatever service and product quality that we are able to deliver. This is the beginning of it. And that is what we are talking about it. Can we create difference here using data and technology and the thought? Just data and technology not enough. I think despite the best AI, ultimately it is the human intelligence that comes into play. So as a team, as an organization, when we are looking at it, how do I ensure that we build customer centricity in the experience that we create so that it leads to shareholder value? And a simple example, very clear example of what happened to Starbucks. 2008, around 2008, 2007-8 is where they started implementing two things: focusing on customer experience and digitizing, bringing the digital technology to the business. And you can see how the share prices have moved from 2008 to today, right? From about, this had gone almost to about 11 at this point in time. Share prices were 11. From there, it has moved to 110, 111. But that's the journey. Now, the point is, it is not something, we all know that it's not something that will happen overnight. It is subject to learning curve. It is subject to effect, which sometimes may be delayed. So the point is, it's not about when do you do it. Whenever we will start doing it, it is going to take some time. So if we say, wait, what is the time of what is the right time for focus on building great customer experience with using data and latest technology like AI, ML, and process automation is now. And that is what is my experience as a marketing manager, as well as my whole learning as a professor in teaching retail and customer experience for the last 35 years. That's what I've learned. Thank you.
So, sir, if I, to sum it up, if I say that, there exists a lot of potential for retailers to grow their business in existing customer base, but due to lack of insights on their buying behavior, businesses often lose on such revenues. Will this statement be a correct statement to make?
I would put it this way: effort to understand consumer behavior. Data is there. It's just that we never looked at it in such precise manner. That's what I'm saying.
Perfect. Really thought-provoking. Thank you, Dr. Sinha. Coming next, we have a distinguished industry speaker and yet another known personality in the retail world. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me and welcome Piyush Chauhan, Group CIO, Lulu Group International. Piyush Chauhan is a digital evangelist with a passion for transforming businesses with the use of technology. With over 2 decades of experience working with global consumer and retail companies, he has an excellent track record of delivering results and creating value across organizations. His vision is creating innovation-focused digital strategies to maximize today's opportunities and prepare organizations for future disruption. His passion for working with startups and innovation-led companies has given him the edge to create digital assets for organizations with the use of latest technologies like analytics, cloud, and artificial intelligence. He has been a widely recognized leader in digital transformation and has been a much wanted speaker at over 100 global events. He is an avid writer, and his thought leadership is published in multiple magazines and portals. Over to you, Mr. Chauhan.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for having me here. Good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. And it's a great pleasure to speak after Professor Sinha. I've been following Professor Sinha for his thought leadership in the retail and consumers kind of centricity thoughts, which he kind of spoke about. And one thing which struck very strongly when he was talking, that obviously you need to start with customer centricity, and then you need to bring 3 things together. Yeah, and I think those were really kind of, I would say, golden words. He said data, technology, and thought. Yeah, and what is missing today is maybe there is too much of technology or there is too much of data, but very less of thought. And until unless all the 3 things are put together in the right mix, the so-called outcome around customer centricity may not lead to the CLTV that he was talking about. So very, very great thought, Professor Piyush Sinha, as I would call him. And what I would do is kind of in the next maybe at the max 10 minutes, talk you through the way I see at a macro level. Now, obviously, there are very great insights that we have seen from other speakers, but from a macro level, where I see, if we were basically crystal gauge as to what are the broad themes which are going to kind of create a transformation in the retail industry, and what are those, I would kind of paint a picture around that. I'm kind of not saying that these are the things, but this is what I see it. I hope everybody can see the screen out there.
Yes,
yeah,
sir, we can
so
see.
Yeah, so what has to be done is obviously there are phases of industries, and I think retail is in that juncture of maybe health tech and retail tech and a couple of other industries are at that juncture where digital is disrupting the whole industry, and hence the whole retail industry needs to be reborn. And this is what my theme would be. And to begin with, obviously, we have seen these kind of headlines all along last 1 year. Yeah, this is the headline right in the beginning of the year in Forbes, saying that predicting that retail bankruptcies are going to accelerate this year. Stores are going to close left, right, and center, and I think that is true in some case. We saw Debenhams, another reputed brand, build over multiple decades with an absolute great fan following and everything, put down its shutter on 14th May. And so when you see these kind of headlines, you would believe that this is kind of a death of the so-called physical, and these are more coming from physical retail. But I think there are equal number of use cases in which the so-called digital commerce retail players are also shutting down. Yeah, so there is the physical retail, which are very reputed brands. There are equal or more number of digital retail players which are also shutting down shop. So what is the secret sauce which is there, which makes things successful? And I think we'll kind of talk about those 5 transformations that are needed to make the retail more relevant in the days to come. What are those 5 transformation areas or 5 kind of, I would say, headwinds that everybody should be watching for? So obviously, the first thing it is becoming quite evident is that there is a big digital divide which is happening, and retailers who are not able to adopt digital very successfully are kind of pushed to the corner, and that is seen by this. And so if you see, there are 2 kinds of graphs, one on the left hand side and one on the right hand side. And if you see on the left-hand side, there are these, and maybe this data is more from US, but I think this may be the same across the world. What is happening is most of the retailers worldwide are seeing absolutely the highest number of growth that they have seen ever. Yeah, the like-for-like growth, which is what are the comps that people talk about. Most of the big retailers have never seen in their life, and that is what has happened in the last 1 year. You see Walmart 8.5, Target 20, Costco 9.3, and so these are very giant engines. When we talk about Walmart, they are doing upwards of $500 billion. Yeah, and on that 8.5 billion is a humongous task. And so there is this divide which is becoming bigger and bigger. And on the right hand side, what you see is the bankruptcies and the store closures. So the record number of bankruptcies, which is only going to accelerate, and the store closures are going to kind of continue to happen. And so there is something which is creating, and what digital has done is it has created a large divide between the haves and not haves. Yeah, anybody who does not believe in pivoting around digital is not able to make themselves relevant in the current context. And if you see all the retailers that we are talking about, although they were not that forward, then none of them are digital native organizations, but still they have adopted. You've seen how Walmart has adopted digital. Their e-commerce business was totally transformed in the last 4 years, and so on and so forth. And so there has to be digital at the core of some of the operations that you're doing. And so how you want to transform? Most of the retail organizations, particularly the legacy or the old school physical retail organizations, we're focusing more on operations. They would say, I have the best sourcing, I have the best supply chain, I have the best retail operations, I have the best customer service on the storefront, and hence the focus was only on operations. There has to be a great focus on experience, and Professor Piyush Sinha was talking about how do you bring in experience. Through customer centricity, you try to create experience which is very unique for you. And then obviously, we have to kind of make sure that you're not doing e-commerce and physical commerce, you're doing omni-commerce. And so until unless you try to broad base your transformation journey, is not only focus on operations, but build experience and kind of look at omni-commerce. Digital transformation is accelerating. Obviously, the joke is there that COVID brought digital transformation in most of the companies. But what is alarming as a fact is that only 3% of the organizations, which is kind of last year, were able to actually implement a company-wide digital transformation. Obviously, there are small digital projects which companies are doing left, right, and center. But for anybody to transform, the number is still less. And that is why you see very few organizations are able to really transform their entire business model, entire ways of working, and able to create a digitally pivoted organization. And hence, until this number goes up, we will continue to see that there's a divide between the digital and the non-digital, which will continue out there. And so what needs to be done? Obviously, no longer products and supply chain efficiencies are going to allow you to be it to be a differentiator. The only differentiator in today's context is customer experience. How are you able to uniquely offer that customer experience? And believe me, one of the things that when I speak to a lot of my retail leaders, a lot of them believe that customer experience is something which can be copied. And I have a strong feeling and believe that customer experience is unique to an organization. Yeah, you have to define your own customer experience for your set of customers. And hence, which is where if you try to just imitate a lot of things will fail. Try to make sure that you invest in the customer experience, create that as a differentiator, understand the value that you're creating for the customer, and basically make that messaging and the proposition very loud and clear to our customers. The other thing is omnichannel. I think there's no denying that in the last 15 years, omnichannel has been a buzzword, but there are still very few enterprises which are doing what I would say is true omnichannel experience. There is still a friction between the various channels of offering. They offer a physical channel, they offer an online channel, and when we try to merge these two together, there's a lot of friction, drop-offs, and things like that which happen, which I think is making the customer feel that these are two different entities, and hence it does not believe that this is something which the customer is looking at. The customer is looking at a omni-channel from their perspective, whereas the organizations are offering something else from their perspective. So organizations need to transform the whole offering to a true omni-channel experience by merging these two together seamlessly and removing the friction between these two channels. And this is a very important data point which I would want to kind of highlight, and very, very important for any marketeer out here, is that 2020 was the first year in which the digital marketing spend and the traditional media spend were equal. Yeah, which is nothing strange, but what it means is that, and this space will continue to grow and grow very fast, and unless you have a very, very good customer engagement methodology using digital tools, you will not be able to be very effective. So what is happening is people are still using digital media, at least the large retailers who do not have a lot of personalized data, are not able to target their customers using personalization and kind of micro segments. They're still doing a very large broad-based campaigns in the digital platform. That is not what digital platforms are built for. Digital platforms are built for where you can actually target, you can segment, you can use them in a much higher way. So your ROI on every dollar spent on digital media will continue to increase. And so focus on this, make sure that your spend on digital media is strong with a personalized and a segmented behavior. And so coming to the end, disruption is a new norm, and the success of any organization will depend on three things: how innovative you are, how agile you are, and how fast you can change. And these are the only three things that will make you relevant in the days to come. So if you were to just summarize, digital divide will widen unless and the reason is, I think there is a huge amount of transformation power which is needed, as well as the financial power which is needed to create a large digital impact. In today's context, digital transformation has to be accelerated. Customer experience has to be a differentiator. Create true omni-channel business model, and make sure that digital marketing with personalized engagement is the way forward. So I think that is it from my end. These were all macro thoughts that I had. I will just kind of hand it back to Manish, who is driving this.
All right, perfect. Thanks a lot for sharing the presentation, sir. I think it goes in sync with what Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry predicted recently. As per their recent report, they have reported that the retail sales in the UAE market They are expected to grow by 13% to reach $85 billion by end of this year. And I believe most of it will be through digital channels, through digital mediums, right? More and more retail organizations, as you rightly mentioned, are looking at or evaluating digital transformation as an option to grow their sales, right? I think this will bring a smile on a lot of faces today.
But
Thanks.
I just want to correct, sorry, Manish, the digital commerce penetration in the GCC region is still sub 10%. So it is still a very small portion, that $85 billion that we talked about, a large portion. Obviously, it will continue to grow, and it will grow at 50. It was sub 3% pre-COVID. It has reached double digits now, and maybe it will reach 15%, but still 85% is still there, which is where experience has to be improved.
Perfect. All right. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks for your insight. So here we bring the next speaker, known for his work around delivering omni-channel experience to the customers of Landmark Group. Join me in welcoming James Dixon, head of omni-channel at Landmark Group. James heads the web team of 320 professionals delivering digital and omni-channel experience across 8 brands in 7 territories, in 2 languages, and on 3 platforms. James covers end-to-end customer experience from growth and MarTech, content and studio operations, product development and engineering, digital operations, and customer care. Prior to Landmark Group, James held various digital and commercial leadership roles at J. Sainsbury's, UK grocer, including omnichannel strategy and growth, on-demand grocery, range, and space. James also led commercial teams at Metcash Limited, an Australian independent grocer, and comes with a consulting and restructuring background with PwC UK, Deloitte Australia, and McGrath Nicol Australia. James, let's hear it from you.
So James, as we were discussing, here we are talking about, we are all talking about omnichannel experience, right? And as Piyush was saying that despite all the efforts, only 3 to 5% of the companies have actually been able to implement it, right? So we would like to learn from you as to the initiatives that you have taken at Landmark Group, and which would have already started yielding results, right? Business results, as well as the non-monetary results in terms of customer experiences and satisfaction to the customers, right?
Sure.
We would love to know as to how you are able to do it, and what are the biggest challenges that you faced, and what are the biggest wins that you thought you got into this time period that you had.
Sure thing. Okay, so hi guys, thanks for having me. Look, I'm a pretty practical guy overall. So what I've experienced in this company and in the UK at a grocery business going on a similar journey is before you even think about technology, and the speakers before me have covered this. Some of the most important challenges that we've faced and most companies face, I think, boil down to not technology, but mindset. So are we asking the right questions? Do we have the right data? Do we have the right KPIs? Do teams have the right incentivization to drive customer experience? So mindsets, it's probably the most important thing to get right early, because despite what you do with your data, with your experience, with your technology, if you're not asking the right questions or have the right data in front of the right people, you won't get outcomes. So mindset's been a really important thing for us to move. The operating model that we put around customer experience, I think, has been a really important investment for us. I'll come onto it shortly. But by default, traditional companies kind of have organization structures. And I find organizational structure is the worst thing for customer experience, because what happens is handoffs. So think about it. You've got a buying team who's buying stuff that customers want to buy. The marketing team are driving customers into the store or onto the website. The product team or the engineering team are building experiences. The customer will come onto that experience, they'll buy, then the supply chain team takes over. They deliver the product, and the customer support team will pick it up from there. And what I've found is, because you've got all these handoffs between teams which have possibly different agendas, different strategies, different priorities, different KPIs, what happens is customers can get lost in the little voids between organization structures. So we talk about seamlessness, but actually creating an experience where customers have to jump around your organization is one of the worst things that can happen for a customer experience or for seamlessness. So that's been a really big thing for us as well. So like I say, before even considering all the lovely technology out there, all the AI and ML, getting some of those things right is vastly important. I'll give you an example. So in our business, and in lots of businesses, sales and cost, especially in a retailer, have always been kind of the gospel. So we always prioritize based on sales or on cost reduction. We're always trying to drive sales and reduce cost, right? How we've flipped that on its head recently, just one example is for a fulfillment of an order, you would always try and traditionally reduce your cost per order as much as possible. Makes sense. We want to drive efficiencies in our supply chain operations. What you do when you're trying to reduce cost is you make trade-off decisions. So you might say, for example, we want to optimize to increase the amount of orders on a van or a truck to get cost efficiencies for that truck. But what we do is we trade off delivery speeds. So one of the important kind of jumps that we've made over the last couple of years is we've flipped it on its head and said, and we've correlated that delivery speed, increasing delivery speed, decreasing delivery times equals higher NPS as a proxy for customer satisfaction, and higher NPS equals higher retention. And higher retention for us means a larger active customer base, which means a cheaper acquisition strategy because we're not having to replace lapsed customers. So you can see actually what we're doing is we're trying to drive fast deliveries to drive retention. So it doesn't quite fit in with the traditional mindset of a retailer, but it actually is what's driving us forward. So we've talked about customer centricity. That's a good example of what we've done. So I mean, thinking about the journey we've been through and what I see most retailers of being in a journey in, there's kind of a series of steps that I've noticed. And the first step around understanding customer experience and being able to do something with it has always been hygiene. So do I understand the pockets of data around my business where I can observe, activity or customer touch points? So whether that's marketing, digital marketing, on-site experience, conversion, what's happening in supply chain, what's happening in customer experience, what's happening at the store. Getting all of that stuff together and putting it together is actually one of the hardest things that most companies will go through. So mobilizing data. After that, and we're on this journey as well, by the way, is it visible? Is it visible to the right people in the business to understand where a customer has interacted with you? And is it understandable? So having the data is one thing, but being able to visualize it and make the average punter in the organization understand where there's opportunities, where there's segments, where there's themes, where there's trends, where there's issues or successes is a really important thing to get across. A lot of companies kind of get there. Where I find a big jump between making it understandable to making it really operational is, can I action that data? And not just me as the leader of a function, but can the individual operator in the customer's kind of front end take that information and then do something with it and drive an action for a customer? And great if we can get there, but then the next step and where we start talking about machine learning and so on is, how do I automate some of those decisions? So for example, if I know a customer is high value or about to lapse or a value hunter or a woman or an Emirati versus a Filipino, can I then do something on my site? So whether that's presenting different content, whether that's re-ranking, sorting or listing algorithms, if the customer calls the contact center, does the agent immediately know that they fit into this segment? That's a big leap. And look, all retailers, if you're a retailer on this call, everyone's kind of at different levels of sophistication on each of those journeys, as are we. But what I do see is a lot of retailers try to jump straight to the end without getting some of the basics right. And you've got this shiny, great new tool, but you haven't actually mobilized your data appropriately to do something for a customer. So
we have overrunning time schedule.
Sure.
Time, please. Thank you.
Sure. So look, we are on this journey. I won't go into lots of detail about things that we are working on, but one of the main things that we're working on right now is we've got some shiny tools. One of the main things we're doing is piecing together all of those records to get that kind of customer record. So I know every kind of input or every segmentation we have in the business, and now I can action it at different parts of the organization. So that's kind of a big thing that we're focused on right now. Hopefully that's helpful.
Thanks, James. Thanks a lot. I also actually, there's no time, but I want to talk about the great data asset, digital asset that you have called Shukran.
Yeah.
All of us have it, but leveraging that itself is a big task, isn't it?
Yeah. So millions of records.
Sometimes, gentlemen, to see how this could be matched. All the thought leaders spoke about it, but how this could be met by systems. So let's look at how Centric has built the robust engine to support all your thought leadership. Over to you, Manish.
Sure. Let's move on.
Thanks, James.
Thank you. Thank you, James. Thanks, Dr. Sinha. The next presenter will be Dave Monaghan, who is the Chief Revenue Officer at Centric. He will share his thoughts on leveraging AI to drive better productivity and increase profitability. Followed by him, we will have Don Helfrich, who is the Director Data Science at Centric, and he will take us through a wonderful application that will enable retailers go next level. Over to you, Dave.
Hey, thank you so very much. I do know we're running late, so I wanted just to do 2 quick slides, and then I'll introduce Don into the deal. Some of these are just kind of interesting things. So if you like to run by metrics, I think these are 2 interesting concepts to look at. One is just how quickly you can damage or bruise a relationship. So one negative event, one and done, as they might say in the NCAA tournament over here for basketball, can really spoil the soup. But you can see how an increase in the Net Promoter Score really correlates very, very positively to increased revenues moving forward. So I think the message I want to send with this slide in a brief amount of time that I have is that if you mind the little things, the big things are going to find themselves working out, and focus on some of those things. And I know James just talked about Net Promoter Score as a metric associated with customer satisfaction. And so just kind of old thinking, new thinking, where can we go with data science today before I hand this over to Don is we're done with these mass marketed kind of messages about, hey, 11% off everything or Father's Day sale, hope to see ya. To something with a little bit more confidence to it. We think a specific customer, why? Because of segmentation and buying behaviors and patterns, is going to be coming to our store in the next couple of weeks' time, likely to buy something that's complementary to something they had purchased before, and based on patterns, being able to estimate pretty accurately what they're going to spend. That's kind of an exciting way, and I think many organizations they think, gosh, we shoot out an email message and that's enough. It really isn't. Not today. Not if you want to thrive. And so my question to you, just as a consumer, which are you going to respond to? That mass appeal or something that's more targeted and personalized, suggesting items and products and making reference to you by name? So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. In fact, I don't have to. Don, just go ahead and take over the screen. Don Henrik is our Director of Data Science within Centric. He wanted to show you a couple of different screens associated with their underlying product. Don, take it away.
So what I wanted to talk about is the Centric platform, and I apologize we're running late, so I'll try and be brief. But what we want to discuss is that tool that we have that allows our customers to personalize, because we know if we personalize an experience with a customer, that customer is exponentially more likely to convert. So what we do here at Centric starts with a deep dive into customer analytics, and we do your typical RFM customer segmentation. We know that the more we segment customers, the more we can be personal and respond to their distinct personality. Again, the customer insight analytics is to personalize the experience for each customer. We know every customer is different, but when we have 165,000 customers like this Centric client, we know we have to break them down into manageable segments. So we get to know that customer. We get to know who are the champions, who are the ones who spend the most, who visit the most, who have been a customer most recently. We get to know them by geography. Where do they live? What kind of county are they in? Are they rural? Are they suburban? Further, what stores are they going to? Which store has the biggest percentage of champions or at-risk clients? Further, we do, like I said, our basic RFM, where we score each client monetarily by how recently they visited and how frequently we see them. This can be broken down to each store. So, this is just the customers in Miami-Dade County who visit the Miami store. Here are our champions. They're spending the most, they're visiting the most, and we've seen them most recently, down to our lost clients that we haven't seen in over 3 years. So sometimes it's easier to slice this two-dimensionally as well. So we can see that all these customers here who are at risk. Some of them have been customers who visited a lot. Some of them have spent a lot of money. What's the thing they all have in common, though? We haven't seen them in a while. So we're able to tailor our communications AI, our promotions AI, by that customer segmentation. And then we have our overall revenue. Where's it coming from? What are our revenue channels? What are the products that are generating the most revenue? We can see the highs, the lows. We can see which stores they're coming from. And then we can also trend in that as well. So we look at, we know, for example, jackets and coats, they are seasonal, but we can break it down into, well, what is the trend of that seasonality? When does that seasonality start? When does it end? Again, allowing us to tailor our promotions both by the client and by the product. Further, we do market basket analysis, where we analyze tens of millions of transactions and find out which items are purchased together most commonly. And not just that they're purchased together, but which one is incentivizing the other one to be purchased. So we know we have a great deal of correlation between shirts and pants and shirts and jeans. Which ones are higher? Do we also know that suits and blazers are purchased with shirts? And all this can be done on an overall department basis. It can be done right down to the individual products. And what this helps us do is develop promotions and do things such as store layout. Are we putting the items that are purchased together close to each other so they're not missed? Are we organizing our website so that those products are close to each other? From here, we look at the customer, our churn analysis, which is attempting to answer the question, why did this customer leave? Why haven't we seen them in over 6 months or in over 2 years? What was it about them? Is there a trend in gender or age? Are we losing that important 35 to 45 demographic? By region, are we not promoting to the suburban or the urban or the rural segments as efficiently as we need to? Here's an example of the last item purchased before a customer disappeared. And we see a very impactful analysis that 1 out of 2 almost customers who purchase shoes hasn't returned in 6 months. Is that a quality experience? Is that a bad customer interaction? We see jackets and coats. 9 out of 10 people who purchased a jacket and coat returned within 6 months. Again, why? That's what we continue with our churn analysis. And we don't have time, but we also do things like conversion analysis. How responsive are people to promotions? Are there customers who are in the segment where no matter how much you promote to them, they're not going to show up? And those who are going to show up regardless of whether you promote to them. So offering them a discount winds up cannibalizing your own profits. We do things such as estimate the next purchase date of each individual customer so that we know this person's due in 10 days or this person is 10 days late, and we tailor our communication AI to accommodate that. Okay, and again, we analyze everything about every customer and every product in every store. So new versus returning customers. We know that new customers are 5 times as expensive to convert as existing. how do we keep those existing? We look at customer lifetime value. So we build all this analysis to assign a lifetime value to each customer. What's their average net sale? What's their number of purchases? How long have they been a customer? So we look at tenure. And then we have our Profit Edge, which looks at both by department and by customer segment where our revenue is coming from. And we do that both for profit, expense, and net profit as well. And then what we do is we forecast. We build into a time series the past as well as seasonality, as well as holidays, trends. We look at world events such as the current pandemic, and we model a time series that predicts where we're going in the future if we stay the course. And from that, we build our prescriptive analysis, and that's something we're continuously working to perfect. So we take all the analysis we've done, like what we've discovered in churn analysis. Here's how you increase your customer tenure. And what we found out in Market Basket, here's how you can increase the basket size per customer. And then what we've discovered in our conversion rates about promotions, here's how we increase promotion frequency. So we're happy to give a very detailed demonstration of this powerful tool as we have more time or on an individual basis. So I'm sorry about running over, but I'll take you back to you, Dave.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing about that predictability aspect of it is you not only have a likely dollar amount, but also a high and a low. How many different ways could you help that in terms of what we're going to order and how we're going to staff, right? So that could be used in lots of different ways. So with that, back to Manish.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, John. And I'm sorry to cut you short here, but anybody who is interested in a deep dive, please reach out to us or drop us an email and we will schedule one-on-one session. Yeah. All right. So I just want to bring in Intertek Systems MD and President, Mr. Naresh Kothare, in here for 30 seconds to give his message to all the attendees today. So over to you.
Right. Thank you, everybody. And I thank you all for coming over to the webinar. And I find that it's been quite interesting and found it useful as well. I did. And it was good listening to the customer side of the prospect as well as what the technology side of the deliveries are possible. And Sanjay did set the tone on the retail side, what's that we are looking in the retail. And having heard from Eros, from Rukshad, how he has implemented over the years and how they have transformed their organization. And I think Piyush gave us, as an industry, what we need to do, 5 things which are important on the technology side, and what we can and how we can take forward in taking this journey. And most interesting was from James, who told us how we can start the journey, and which is very true, is getting out of the journey, technology comes next. But before that, you have to set the mindset. You have to get the processes right. You have to get the stakeholders on. If that's not in, I don't think so you can get your journey right. We have Oracle and Centric in partnership here, and we can take you into the next level. And I think the guys who have moved on technologically, I think are right and ready for AI and deep down analytics to be moved into, because that's what you just saw, the demo from Dawn, what we can do and what can be brought on table. I think it's time to look for the next level of journey. Those who have not begun, we can help you begin the journey. We can help you whichever way, and it'll be our pleasure to help you. Thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to help you out in any way we can. Over to you, Manish.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. So that brings us to the end where we will have a couple of questions answered here, right? So I have received a couple of questions in the chat window. So I would request all the presenters to unmute themselves and answer these questions. The first question that has come from Bhavin, it says, he's asking, retail industry today is divided into physical and online. How the thought process to automate processes works, considering customers' behavior is continuously changing over the time?
So if I can answer this question, this is Alok Verma from Centric, and I have really witnessed and experienced the customer journey both on the physical as well as on the omni-channel on the e-commerce. The customer has to be hand-holded in all the path they are taking, whether on the physical store or on e-commerce. And the only way we can do is to mimic the process of personalization or humanization, if I may say so. So there is a conversational engine coming in, which can take the human role. And in e-commerce as well, the conversational chatbot is getting very intelligent via chat mode or via voice conference. And that probably gives the experience the same what customer is looking for. They're looking for information, they're looking for some action, and they're looking for some kind of experience by which they should transact or close their transaction for which they are coming in. And with that conversational AI, we are also interacting and listening what they are telling us. So with that, we can improve all the delivery mechanism of our services and the product by which they will have the same experience what they could have expected while they're walking in the physical store. And the technology is with us. Centric is enabling conversational AI, the chatbot engine with NLP bots, which is very, very similar to what human can perform when you walk in the physical store. I hope I answered the question.
Perfect, Tilak. Thanks a lot. Okay, we have just one more question now that comes from Azim. He's asking, this being a retail industry webinar, I would like to know what's been done by the retailers on the technology front to make their suppliers see suppliers inventory in the retail store in real time. Basically, manufacturer get to see his inventory position, inventory outage, and availability in the retail store in real time.
As Piyush was saying, and what we learned from this particular webinar, everybody's trying to get it to happen, but there are successes. I'm not saying they're not success. At least, for example, we're talking to a large retail chain in India. They have about maybe 200 stores, and they have been able to. They have actually utilized COVID when the sales were down to actually make sure that the inventory visibility is as high as they can get, both in the store as well as the back end. So retailers are doing it. It's a process, as I said. A lot of us we're forced to learn a lot of things, but that's the future. The future is that transparency has to be there, because one of the biggest advantage of technology is transparency, and efficiency comes when you have transparency. So I know that everyone is trying, and I also know that it's not easy, because sharing of data across it, making sure that the data is safe, and especially if it is through EDI between the two different legal entities, then it becomes a little more complex. So with all that, retailers have been able to do it, and it will have to be done if the efficiencies have to be brought into the end-to-end management of the retail business. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Thank you, Dr. Sinha. I'm familiar with other organizations where actually, as things are manufactured and distributed, they're actually sent directly to the retailers, so that but the ownership of the product is still with the manufacturer. So Internet of Things brings together to all sorts of opportunities where items essentially aren't necessarily actually sold until they are actually picked up and begin to be consumed or used by the next person in line, whether that be the end consumer or some intermediary. So there's a couple of different ways. Internet of Things is certainly one of those opportunities as well. It's never for a box of cereal, but it can be for higher ticket items where it makes some economic sense to do so. Manish, back to you.
All right, perfect. So I think that answers Azim's question. All right, so well, that brings us to the end of this interactive and lively webinar. But before we sign off, I would like to thank all our speakers and presenters for sparing their valuable time with us today. We would also like to thank all the attendees for joining this webinar and being such a wonderful audience. We look forward to see you again during our next webinar. We will keep you posted. In case of any queries, or if you want to see the tool in action, you want to take a deep dive, please feel free to get in touch with us at Intertek at info@intertexas.com, and we will be more than happy to address it. Until then, stay safe. Thank you. Have a nice evening.